now it's time for our children's moment. This is our lesson for the kids during our online worship. Now for our lesson today, we're going to be talking about time. Now where you are, what time is it? Do you have a clock nearby that you could go look at? Or do you have somebody that you could ask, what time is it? Well, time kind of governs our day. The Bible has something to say about time, and I want to read it together. So if you could go find your Bible and look it up, let's read this passage together. We're going to read Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 through 8. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to search and a time to give up. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. The Bible is saying that there is a time for everything. So if we think about our day, this clock is going to be kind of like our day because the clock represents time, the time that we have in our day. What kinds of things do you have to do in your day when it's time for this or it's time for that? What are those kinds of things? Like, I would say there's a time to wake up. It's time to wake up, your mom or your dad says. Or maybe it's time to eat. Your mom or dad calls you to the table. It's time to eat. That's what that time is for. Or maybe they say, it's time for you to get dressed. There's a time for you to get dressed. This is all happening in our day. There's also a time to play. We like to play. There's a time for homework, even if we don't really like to do it, but we've got to set aside time for that. And there's also a time to sleep. In our day, these are things that we're setting aside time for. It's a time to wake up. It's a time to play. It's a time to do homework. But I know that we're also supposed to pray and read the Bible and have a relationship with God. Where does God fit into all of these things on our day? Should we try and carve out some time here and that's where God fits into? Well, I don't think so. Because God is above all time. God is in all things and through all things. So let's say my box here, this is going to be God. And God isn't just a tiny little sliver in our day. God isn't going to be like one of these things that we're fitting into our day, a time to do all of these things. God has all of these things inside of him. So God holds time. God is in all of these things in our day. God is above all of these things in our day. God is beyond time. I know that's a hard thing to think about, but some of you older kids out there might be going, I get it. God is above time. He is not something small like one of these things to be fit within our day. We take our whole day and we give it to God because God is in all things and through all things. So this week, remember, in all of the things that you're doing, all of the things that you've set aside time for, it's time to do this, it's time to do that. God is there through all of it and in all of it. Have a great week, and I'll see you again soon.